Formula One World Championship, round 9 of the F4 Championship here at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, Mexico. I'm Britt Keenan. We'll be soonly joined by Guy Tasker in the commentary box. For now, we're going to just get everyone set up and ready to go racing here. The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez is a very characteristic circuit. It shows a lot of speed, maneuverability, and also one of the highest counts for the corner cut proficiency. So you've got to be super careful around the circuit. Disqualifications are usually probable in these racing conditions. So we'll just wait in tandem for people to get on the track. I don't know. I made an announcement to the Transnation Formula One community this week about wearing pure white helmets in respect for Transnation Formula One Unity, or TNF1 World Unity, so to show that we're all the same people despite our ethnicities, our races, our ideologies, and our religion. We'll all wear the same helmet and we all beat the same heart and live as one. So we'll be curious to see how many of the drivers have elected to wear the pure white helmets. It was completely an optional choice. Of course, World News probably has been covering it quite a bit, but of course the terror attacks last weekend in Christchurch left 50 dead, and a lot of people wanting answers as to why a heinous crime like this could be committed. So it's been a week now. We've just paid our big respects yesterday with a vigil that commemorated those whose lives were lost, and that it's brought forth unity among the people. So anyway, the first driver to now come out onto the circuit to start a flying lap around here is Philip Ducat. Philip, of course, is not a regular, one would say, with the amount of races he hasn't attended of the 9 contested, but has graced us with his presence this weekend for Mexico, and we'll see how he handles himself around the circuit anyway. So, the Mexican Grand Prix circuit, which was brought back into the calendar back in 2015, it's been often criticised for the nature that you can't get a decent lap in because of the invalidation with strict corner cutting, but it flows a lot if you have the right setup on the car. Some people will probably just elect to run default, others will actually try and find a setup worthy of the cause. And we've still got ourselves a bit of a championship battle at the moment between Luke Ringham and Albert Ramirez Garcia as Guy Tasker joins the spectator stand. He'll soon join us in the commentary box to have his piece on the Mexican Grand Prix circuit. I had been touching up a little bit on my Mexican for the weekend, but unfortunately I found myself in a bit of a lack of time to polish it up, so I won't be going too far into the details. But now Guy Tasker finally joins us in the com box. Hopefully those enchiladas were delicious enough to warrant the need to be late, but
oh yeah, enchiladas, fajitas, all of it.
Anyway, so I've been explaining to the people watching about what makes the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez so technical and challenging. I'll get your input on the circuit, because last season we didn't really get a race with it for the F1 community. Unfortunately, PSN Network decided to pack a sad about 6 laps into the race, but for those who have tackled it, what do you come to expect from Mexico?
It's a bit of an odd one, really. I can't really made my mind up about it. Uh, yeah, I think we get some good racing here at times, really, don't we? It's not too hard to overtake because you've got the huge straight. So if you can keep it close to the final sector is the main challenge, because it's quite hard to follow through the final sector. So I'd expect to see some a bit of overtaking. Corner cutting, not awful around here. But yeah, I'd say the final sector is where it gets really quite technical, because I think if you, a little bit like Suzuka, you've got the S's, and if you kind of mess up your entrance to that, it can really doom you for the rest of the sector, really. So yeah, it's good. It's always a challenge, I think, especially, as I say, moving towards the end of the lap. But
so Philip Ducat was just on the top just a minute ago, but he's been dropped off by Matt Coyler, who jumped up with a 15.7. Now, as far as I'm aware, or as far as I've been paying attention to, the fastest times overall this weekend have been sitting in the 13. So these guys quite a fair bit off the money. Although some of the drivers are electing to use different tyre compounds. So you've got the main drivers up the front using super soft or ultra soft, apart from Philip, who's used the ultras to set his 16 flat. So Philip's got a bit of work to do, it looks like. One driver I want to be looking out for in particular is this guy here, Cameron Betts, who makes his return to the Trans Nation Formula 1 after a healthy length of time away from the sport. And his brother, of course, behind him in the Toro Rosso Honda. So, what do you make of this? The Betts brothers back again for take two.
yeah, racing together again. We know they had good pace last time. Well, was it last season, wasn't it? Only they were in the league. I think they both showed some competitive pace in their respective divisions. So I'd imagine they're going to be pretty competitive down. Well, although they have, I believe Cameron said he switched onto the wheel, hasn't he now? Which could, I mean, he looked pretty fast last week, or the week before. So I'd expect them to be some pace setters down here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them show the pace to move up into one of the higher divisions. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, that's for sure.
And it comes down a lot to what the evaluations in a couple of weeks' time really proves. And so for people that, as actually Cameron goes to the top with a 15.6 on the ultra soft, so that's not too bad. We'll just quickly see what his brother does. His brother actually pulls into the pits.
Yeah.
So the evaluations in a couple of weeks' time are pretty much going to help bridge that gap between the drivers. I mean, we see it quite a lot, especially in F1. We see Daniel Val, Mackenzie Stewart, John Lindbergh, and all those kind of drivers are always up the front. And then you've got other drivers midfield. You got your front runners, you've got your midfield, and you've got your back runners, which is for a main category that we try to show the best. That's not really the what we can deliver, and it's the same in F2. We've got people that can win races, people that can get on podiums, and then people that are just struggling to get by. I myself being one of those people struggling to get by as of late. So I think once we decide, we'll go through the evaluation to figure out how where the drivers fit. I think we'll be looking at some faster. Ooh, here we go. Luke Ringham to the top of the 15.4, and now immediately taken over by championship points leader Albert Ramirez. See, these two, the top two in the championship, now top two on the grid. So Luke's really made his step up to challenge Albert. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's an 18-point gap difference. Well, there's an 18-point gap that Albert needs to collect this weekend if he wants to be declared the F4 champion before the season's end. So he'll need to finish in the top two if Luke unfortunately doesn't finish the race. So that'll be an interesting championship prospect. We could have almost crowned an F1 champion this weekend too, had Daniel not DNF Japan.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
it's fun to see it going down a bit closer to the wire anyway.
Yeah, F2 is far from resolved. I think there's still quite a close battle between Sebastian Spicer and
Oh
Matt
yeah, that's
Levy.
wide open there.
And then F3, I think we could almost say that Sterling West could already have one hand on the championship trophy in that regard with the pace he's showing. But of course, there's still a couple of combatants in the F3 that could take the crown from him there. Just looking at the order list, so Bradley Betts has not set a lap yet, and he'll be hoping he gets one in. And that's the problem with Mexico, it's that once you start getting invalidation, it does start to kind of kill your rhythm, and you try to find every which way to make it work. And so he's trying to do it on the ultras, and if he makes a meal of this one, he'll have to try and use the hypers, which will be the less than ideal strategy, I believe, because a lot of people seem to think that the Hypersoft have the potential to go the distance in the races. I wouldn't really know, so I'm a bit of second guessing in what I'm doing for my strategy, but I think a lot of drivers are looking at the hot ultra to super as Braid goes super wide into the firstly S's, which, yeah, he's backed off, so looks like he must have been validated, so he'll probably go for one more crack. And that's the part that's demoralising the most about when you invalidate your lap, because if you're trying to run the slower tyre strategy to do an effective one stop.
There's just been a bit of contact there. I'm not sure what happened, whether someone was trying to get out of the way or not, but maybe Philip just kind of, I don't know, like he was going up the inside and kind of oversteered out wide into the side of, I think it was a McLaren.
So it could have been. Oh, we got. Speaking of McLaren, Daniel Budwell just into the fence on the last corner.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't think it's too hard to do. So I think the victim was Alex Reese, going by that logic, who's sitting behind.
Just tapped the back of him and lost the front end. And a bit weird, but I don't think there was any major damage done in the end. But I don't know if he was not. He might have been on that lap. I'm not sure. Or
yeah.
Actually, just riding on board with Philip there goes, just cutting the S's straight through there. I'm guessing he's just getting back to the pits.
There is 7 minutes on the clock, but people don't tend to think about how long they've got, so they just try and get back as quickly as possible. I think in real life Formula 1 standards, I'm pretty sure that any driver caught doing that would probably be likely to be excluded from qualifying, I'd imagine. But
I think so.
But yeah, back to the point. It's when you on a lap on the slower tyre, and most people do it because, as I said, you don't want to be doing the fast. You don't want to be qualifying on the Hypersoft, and compromising your strategy. Which actually, just looking at the top of the leaderboard, I've just noticed as Matt Poyer goes to the top on a 14.2, so we're starting to now see the more representative qualifying times. So the top two now are both on the Hypersoft strategy, which I would not do unless I knew I had the pace to kind of back up the idea that you might have to do a two-stop or try and extend the hypers to the stint of an ultra if you want to make a one-stop work. So these guys who are running the Hypersoft at the start, in fact the top three now, as Joseph Roberts makes it a Red Bull 1-2 at the moment on the grid. It's gonna be interesting to see if I was, because I know that Joseph and Matt are really good friends and they talk amongst each other. I would have probably split the strategy. I would have put one on the hyper and one on the ultra and just see, and then kind of just pace yourself on the idea. But I don't know, I mean, everyone has different perspectives and different ways of doing things. So the fastest Hypersoft runner clearly is Matt Poyer on the top of the leaderboard. The fastest Ultrasoft runner is Luke Ringham on a 15.6, which is actually not too far off Albert's time. So going by that logic, that's not too bad. And then the fastest super time is Diogo Cruz with a 16.4. So plenty of the gap. Actually, when you look at it, the gap between the top 11 drivers isn't actually too gapped out. It's only really about 2.4 seconds. So
yeah, well, especially since there's a range of tyre compounds in there as well.
So from the
Interesting.
fastest hyper to the slowest alt super is only 3.1 seconds. So that's ideally not too bad. I mean, you look at the actual Formula One, and you see a 3 second gap difference between the drivers on the same compound. So to only be 3 seconds off on differing compounds is actually quite a nice thing to see, and it's actually quite nice to see a field of 13 cars here in F4. Of course, F4 and F1 being probably the worst categories in the field of attendance. F2 and F3 moderate between pretty good and pretty amazing as well. Of course, F2 Bahrain and F2 France still hold the biggest attendance record of 19 drivers apiece. Just that needed that one extra driver to have a first ever full lobby, but I think 19 cars on the track was bad enough on that day as it was.
Yeah.
So let's see. So Ethan Lossings, who's come back after a quite a brief spell away, currently sitting P6, and David Edwards, for people wanting to know where he is, he's unexpectedly left the league without any prior warning. So very disappointed that people can't just come and talk to us about these kind of things before leaving. I mean, I did give him an opportunity to race F3 if time was an issue, so I'm a little disappointed to think that he'd just choose to leave rather than negotiate. But I suppose that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and in doing so we've opened the door for a few people. Now, there is probably a common question that's going to be asked by regulars, and by I say regular, people who have been around since the beta test, which is you, Mackenzie, Matt, Plevs, Axel, and Alex Little. But people asking, yeah, the question, I'm probably sure the question will come up, would Habs for Life Jonathan Carton ever come back? The answer to that question is a big fat no.
He could be watching, you never know. You might have just broken his heart.
Well, he chose his path, and he decided to leave one of the best leagues behind AOR. So, what can I say? It's his choice. We have to respect that, I suppose, in some odd way. I mean, sprint mode of all things, guys. Sprint mode. Speaking of which, actually proud to say that after evaluations are complete on where are we? April the 13th and 14th. Actually, that date still sounds wrong, but oh well. After that weekend anyway, we'll be hosting another Sprint Mode Championship. But with a bit of a twist. So if people are familiar with Arava's Strat to Glory, you'll know that it's basically a championship where you practically use every car on realistic settings, and you try and go as quickly as you can to earn as much points. We'll be doing this sort of the similar thing, but with sprint mode rules. So it'll kind of promote the idea of if you're stuck in a Williams, your best bet of winning is to hope that you can take people out, and or if you're in a Ferrari and a Merc, your best bet is to try and avoid being taken out, because you know that you will be, otherwise you'll pretty much run away with the race. So think of Strat to Glory with no rules, simulation damage, and pretty much everyone will likely go backwards or something like that to try and. So that'll happen for either for the first 10 or the last 10 rounds of the championship, of the Sprint Mode Championship. So that'll be an interesting telling point. Now, 30 seconds left on the clock. It doesn't look like anyone's really been able to do anything, and poor Brad has not been able to set a lap this entire session. He'll have one more crack on it, and his tyres are 2 laps more, so he's already had to try and do one lap on these tyres another lap on these tyres to try and get a lap in. And I think if I was in Brad's situation now, he's just, that could have been a bit subjectable to extending there. If I was Brad, I would probably just give it up. Well, not give it up, but I wouldn't care if it was the slowest time or midfield time. I'd just go out and get a time on the board.
Yeah.
It will mean
Although
though.
then again, perhaps you'd think that starting outside, rather than start on these worn tyres, just start outside the top 10 and choose your tyre, perhaps.
Well, even
This is
if it,
going to
even if he
these
does
tyres up a
set,
little bit.
if he does set a time outside the top 10, then he can do that. But even if he doesn't, he could still do it because there'd be no recorded time on a tyre. So
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Maybe it's worth just not setting a time,
just
rather
see
than setting one and then having to start on these worn ultras. But it obviously feels he can get quite high up the grid, and the time. Oh no, he's backed off it.
he's probably
I
listened.
think he might have run out of fuel.
Yeah, I think he's listened in and well,
I wondered if he ran out of fuel from the look of the car. Suddenly kind of
so this is going to
jammed
be
as such. But
this will be an interesting telling point. So it looks like Ethan Lossing's moved up to P3 on the Ultrasoft with a 14.7, which has denied the. Oh my goodness me!
that was close.
You don't see it very often, but Jesus, that was quite something else. But it comes down to. Hang on, I just got a message from someone. DRS failed. DRS failed. Okay.
I have seen that once or twice in online lobbies where you get the notification that the DRS went over. I had that in actually in League Race last year that we did.
Yeah, I had a DRS
Only
failure.
for a few laps, and then but then it came back.
I had a DRS failure throwing the whole of qualifying in the first round in Australia, so to be 2 seconds off the pace because of a DRS failure was a bit demoralising. So it wasn't.
Yeah, just a bit.
Although, in saying that, to be within 2 seconds of the time with a DRS failure was quite an accomplishment at the same time. So we've got our lineup set up and we're pretty much ready to get racing. Quite a lot. I've just noticed how big of a British Cantabriate F4 is.
Good lads.
One Welshman or Englishman, sorry, and then a few handfuls of Americans and Canadians. Actually, it's quite amazing. Actually, you got a heap of English and UK. Then you got one American, one Portuguese, one Italian. It's one of each, basically. And then, of course, people will start talking about their quali runs. Somebody suggested that we should actually, at some point, do a segment where we talk to the top 3 qualifiers for the day, much like they do in the actual F1. I just don't personally think we have the kind of time and luxury to be able to.
That would be far too rushed, I think. I wouldn't want to distract them in between the two either.
So we're just waiting now for the lights, for the formation lap to get underway. I would imagine you've brushed up a little bit more on your F4 names since last time.
Yeah, few maybe.
That was a very sheepish way of saying. That was a very sheepish way of saying no, but I'll take your word for it.
No, I mean I'm just not convinced how many I remember. But...
Oh well, I'll get you to run through the TK Media starting grid and see how you do.
Once we get there, my screen's just loading out. Okay, perfect. Right. I think we're off, fella. I think my screen was a bit behind there from the sounds of it, but I feel like we're off now. Cool. So I believe it is Matt Coyler leading us off in the Red Bull, closely followed by the championship leader Albert Ramirez Garcia, with, as Brett alluded to earlier, Ethan Lossing on his return after a brief break in the Renault in P3. Then we have Joseph Roberts in the second of the Red Bull, so Red Bull looking to pick up some good points here today in P4. Then we go into, this is Cam, so this is Cameron Betts in the Force India, so ended up in P5, not bad at all. Luke, we've got Luke Ringham, so second in the championship, fair way behind in the championship with this few races left, but I'm sure he won't have given up hope just yet. Then we have Daniel, that's the one. Daniel Budwell in P7 in the McLaren, followed by the first of the Alex. This is Alex Reese in the second of the McLaren, so they're starting next to each other. And then you've got Aiden in the Is that the Ferrari? Looks like he's been disqualified, so I can't. Oh, yeah, it would be the Ferrari. You got Philip. Yeah, we do have Philip. And the Haas. That's the Haas P10. Alex again, second Alex Di Maio in the first of the Alfa. No, the second of the Alfa Romeos. I'm getting very confused. Diogo P12, and then as we mentioned in qualifying, we have Brad picking up the rear in P13.
So one thing I have noticed that a lot of drivers have just elected to wear the white helmets for this weekend to commemorate TNF1 worldwide unity. It's great to see. A lot of people out there will think it's quite boring, but this is something that we want to show that we are one. The lights build up. I know I shouldn't. I really know I shouldn't, but I'm gonna have to. It's Andale, let's go racing here at Mexico, and it was a horrible start by Albert Ramirez Garcia. Yeah. He's gone nowhere. Ethan Lossings has actually had a really good start here, and one thing I know about Turn 1 Mexico, it is pandemonium. Ethan Lossings is going to try and go around the outside. Koya actually tries to go deep in the brakes to make the move stick, but actually loses ground, and Ethan Lossings will take the lead of the Grand Prix. I actually think that there's been quite a bit of biff and barge, but overall everyone's gotten through Turn 1, the Turn 1 to Turn 3 complex quite easily. As
look at Aiden, he's gained 5 places there. The Ferrari, he must have got a lightning start and must have got a nice drag going up into Turn 1.
There was quite a bit of a biff and barge there between the top two as they tried to sort themselves out into position. I think Koya tried to make an ambitious move up the inside and couldn't get it done. And Bradley Betts has had an off somewhere along the lines too. He's lost quite a bit of fit ground to the rest of the field. He's on the ultra soft, so he hasn't actually decided to spice his strategy up by starting on the supers to run a longer strategy. And as you say, Aiden Rifai now up to P4.
Yeah,
after
he's having to hold on a little bit, but he is getting there. Joseph just tried to lunge it up the inside and massively missed the braking point, so ran it wide and has lost out to Luke in the process. So biggest winner is definitely Aiden Rifai with 5 spaces made it from the start. Biggest loser has been Cameron Betts, who's dropped 4 from the start. Ethan Lawson just got off the line beautifully, and at the expense of, hang on, just got a move here. Actually, it's not a move, it's Daniel Budwell electing to not take the first corner on track. He actually decided to go on the grass and take that one. As Brad comes into the pits, looks like he's got a broken front wing, so that has been changed, and a set of super soft tyres for his wake as well. So yeah, so Ethan got off the line well. I mean, in contrast to Albert, who went absolutely nowhere. Looked like he just either missed the start a bit, or he just bogged it down on the line, so couldn't make ground. And then Ethan just around the outside of them all into Turn 1. Of course, had to kind of probably think for a minute. Yeah, okay, we're on the outside. There's going to be a few people that probably go up the inside and try and make a stick of it. So he held his ground quite well, and he's handled himself brilliantly. And as you say, Rifai with a beautiful start to be up P4, but is currently kind of fighting for his position at the moment with Luke Ringham and Joseph Roberts right behind him. And Rifai is going to go defensive because he knows that the straight line speed is pretty much there even without DRS. Luke goes up the inside. Luke is going to breeze past.
We'll just see what happens under brakes. Oh,
he can go for the switchback there. Oh yeah, Aiden's got a bit of a switchback on him there.
He's got the ground.
Keep his nose in.
He could
hold it around the outside nicely.
It could have been a bit of a catastrophic moment because you can hold your ground into the first 2 corners, but then you've got to be careful about the exit of Turn 3, because if you're too far up, the nose might end up getting caught underneath the rear of the car.
It's certainly a risky one. Yeah.
So good respect from the 2 drivers to not actually put each other in the fence by doing that. Now, Garcia is right on the back of Koila at the moment, while Lossings makes a break for it. And Lossings will be kind of disappointed at this point that circumstances saw him unable to contend the last few races up till now. Because going by the pace that he's showing right now, he definitely was going to be one of the top guys for the championship, as well as probably David Edwards too. Unfortunately, David saw other commitments to be a bit more important, so we wish him the best, I suppose. Now, I'm expecting to see him move here because Garcia will have the DRS. Koya does go defensive to try and avoid the inside being taken, but that Merc with DRS is just on fire at the moment as he makes the move and makes it stick, and Koya just retreats back and says, I'll come and get you on the next DRS. But I think, if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure the DRS, there's only one DRS detection point here, so...
yeah, there's only one detection point. Yeah, so if you get it for the first, then you have it for the second as well.
So
oh, and Aiden's run very deep through in turn 2, is that there?
And he's dropped
and he has
one
lost
spot.
Place.
Could he drop another
Yeah,
one?
I think he was trying. I think he might have been trying to stick it up the inside actually and get the place back, but it was way too late on the brakes in the end.
Cameron Bett's back in P8 at the moment. Doesn't look like he's in a position at the moment to really pose a threat to the front runners at the moment, but he'll be just looking to keep himself clean, and that's a McLaren of Daniel Budwell that we just saw a quick shot of on the outskirts of the circuit. So Budwell's made a mistake again, and that's not good news for Ethan Lossings there.
Oh, the disconnection.
It's not the first time we've seen this kind of stuff happen, especially around Mexico for some reason. I don't know if it's a desynchronization issue with Mexico, but we probably will expect to see quite a bit of this over the course of time. Usually can come down to a game breaking or your game crashing, as you say, the internet's gone or something of the line. He should... I was about to say his Ghost was about to actually make a dive up the inside of Garcia there for a second. Looked very convincing. But he should be able to rejoin, but that's going to kill him a little bit. Whether actually it's going to kill his motivation to come back or kill his motivation to race hard. Luke's managed to actually, and you can see how much actually just by looking at the gap between Luke and Koya at the moment, you can almost see how much time that Luke was losing to Aiden, because well, here comes Cameron up the inside of Aiden now into, I wouldn't call it this, well, he's gone deep, so that's allowed Aiden back through, but I wouldn't call that really an idealistic overtaking opportunity. I mean, it is one, but I don't know, you've got to kind of be sure that you've got the move done, otherwise you're just going to get set up to be over and undered, which is never a good thing. And no sign of Ethan back yet, as Brad gets a 3-second time penalty, and he's actually now up to P12, so looks like Philip's having a bit of a bad run.
Had a moment.
We've got to move, I think. Oh yeah, no, these are just all the people that are now starting to get ahead of Ethan. Sorry, I just had Ethan trying to say that to try and get us to invite him back, but unfortunately, another one of Codemaster's many various features avoids pretty much letting you invite people through the spectator situation, which I'm not 100% sure as to why that's a thing. And I mean, Guy being a beta tester could probably answer that for me. I don't know. But it is a bit of a stupid. I mean, you should be able to invite people back into lobbies through spectate if you're spectating. I mean, if you're a racer and then you crash out and spectate, you can do it. But so I don't see why a personal spectator can't actually do it.
Just seeing Cam giving Aiden a hard time here. He's gonna. Oh, and there you go. There's the. He didn't touch him on my screen. I'm guessing that's desync. It looked like he'd been touched in the back there.
But that's the example that we were trying to come across with the turn 3 part of it, is that you just got to be able to, as I think. No, sorry, that was Alex Reese actually making
Alex getting involved. Oh, and Aiden's done the same and has collected the rear. I think Cam has managed to hold it together.
I think that was Aiden getting even a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
So yeah, so Ethan is claimed to have used is using an Ethernet cable, and this still happens. So that's a. I always thought Ethernet cables helped your chances with that kind of stuff, but it looks like okay, we've got Joseph Roberts in from effectively P4 I think it was. Lucas actually managed to clear Koya during us watching this battle going on. It doesn't look like Aiden's come in.
No. Well, I don't know. So I think I'm just going to check who's on what tyre at the moment, because I think, yeah, those on the Hypers probably don't have too long left in those tyres.
Most people always talked about the Hypers only really lasting 5 laps, so for people to go 7 laps through with what they have now is quite an impressive feat. And so I would say, yeah, as you say, I wouldn't be too far.
Well, combined with the fact you might be able to sneak a bit of an undercut in on some people, but Luke Ringham in a really strong position at the moment on the ultra soft tyre, only 2.7 seconds off the lead. Looks like he's in a bit of a commanding position at the moment, despite only being in second place.
Yeah, so 8 laps. Okay, so now we've got Koya in, who's elected to go on the ultra soft tyre. Oh no, sorry, super soft tyre. From this distance, the colours actually aren't too different from one another. So I think next time they do, well, since there is no ultra soft next year, it will be different.
Yeah, that's true. It's a bit more clear cut this season. What will be the coming season, I guess.
Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't, as Aiden gets a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. Where did he corner cut in order for that to happen? Oh, I think I know where. It's clear cut on the tyre compound, but the actual theory behind the tyres is still exactly what you come to expect now. So you come to Mexico, you'll have 3 tyre compounds. They'll be the red stripe, the yellow stripe, and the white stripe, but they are still the hyper soft, the ultra soft, and the super soft. Or I think actually, as far as I'm aware, I actually think they've gotten rid of the hyper soft compound from the whole generality of the sport. So I think it would be the ultra soft, super soft, and soft. So it sounds simple on paper, but it's still very complex when you look at the actual detail of the situation. Now, Alex de Mars had an off on the last turn. I can't actually see his car at the moment. We'll just go on board. There he is. Looks like he's just had a spin coming on the last turn and has just taken his time to recover from it. Bradley Betts now up to P11 as opposed to Ethan, who's still trying to actually get himself back in the game. Looks like he can't connect in general, so he must have had a complete power out or complete net loss.
Yeah. It's never what you want to see, especially when someone is leading the race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw
they were on for such a strong weekend.
We did see it happen to Matthias Pacelli quite a bit last season, and then of course Monaco, where he was 40 seconds ahead, had a disconnection, but still crossed the line and won the race despite that. So, actually, hang on. Do you have Ethan in your... No, you probably don't. If you were to add Ethan to your friends list, left the lobby, came back... Oh, no, because that wouldn't work either. No, I was going to say, leave the lobby, come back, and then... invite him through the lobby. That would work, but then yeah, you wouldn't be able to get back in anyway, so that's kind of counterproductive. Anyway, I suppose we'll just hope that somebody who I've given the message to say when they pit to send them an invite, hopefully they'll do it. Otherwise, it's a bit of an unfortunate circumstance. So the McLaren, watching Alex Reese here in one of the McLarens. In fact, both McLarens doing quite an alright job in P7 and P8, so that's going to be some pretty good constructor points there for them. Mercedes not looking too great with the one driver. Ayub looks like he didn't Luke's taking the lead of the race, and he'll be just saw a bit of a moment there with Diogo for a second there as he was on his way into the pits. In fact, he managed to get past Daniel Bidwell before that, so that was an interesting situation I didn't actually get to see. So yeah, Luke Ringham leading the race on the ultra soft tyre. Oh, hang on. Mascot's here, and Mascot wants attention, so...
I see, of course.
So
it's
Luke...
quieting down a little bit.
Yeah, so Luke holds a 9-second lead over Cameron Betts, although that gap's starting to actually really diminish all of a sudden, but I'm watching Luke on screen here, and it's not... Well, this is interesting. This is actually very interesting. A lot of hyper runners have actually, a lot of ultra runners are starting to come in lap 12, so a lot of the hyper runners have actually managed to continuate a strategy that's actually paid off for them. So.
Yeah, so there's obviously conditions seem to be quite kind on the tyres. They must not have dropped off the cliff too much, although I believe Luke's just fitted the hyper soft tyres.
Oh, yeah, it's two actually, and there's no mistaking that.
Is he going for yeah, he's going for a two-stop.
Well, I'm actually thinking maybe the whole field is doing a two-stop strategy, maybe other than the super runners. But oh, speaking of super runner, Joseph Roberts right on the ragged edge, coming out of turn 3, got on the grass and just about threw the car into the opposing wall. So he's pushing hard. He has got his teammate behind him, as well as Luke, who's just come out behind them with the Hypersoft tyre now.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, Luke can't afford to lose much time here. We know he's fitted on some fresh hypers. He can't afford to get held up too long. He needs to really maximise this stint.
And he'll be doing so. We'll just have a quick watch of this as it goes along. So Koya's going to do everything in his power to try and keep Ringham at bay. But Ringham's going to have so much more grip when it comes down to it. He tries to go around the outside, heading into the corner before the hairpin. Oh, he had a really good exit coming out there, and I really thought he was actually going to incentivise it, move up the inside of the... Would you call it a hairpin, or... I think it's more of a... semi-degree
I guess
corner.
it is. It's just, yeah... it's probably not quite a hairpin, because it's kind of part of a chicane, really, isn't it? So, very tight left-hander.
And Ringham now grabs Koya on the DRS, and luckily for Ringham, he'll actually have the knowledge of knowing he might be able to have a go at Roberts, because he'll have DRS again, and he'll be able to try and use that DRS to make two overtakes on two Red Bulls, but I don't think he's far enough to really mount a move there. So Albert's strategy has actually really helped him in the way that he's actually been able to chalk up 11 seconds on the set of tyres. He does get a 3-second time penalty, but yeah, Luke's lost... I don't know, I wonder if Luke lost a lot of ground during the end part of his stint, because I would have thought that the overcut would have been just a little bit there, but it seems like the actual undercut's been quite powerful. As oh, what a beautiful move there by Ringham to actually take advantage of
yeah, that was nice.
Roberts going a little bit wide into that corner. It's not... Idealistically, you don't make those kind of moves unless you know that the car next year is going to be on the paces. Despite all the overtaking, he still does the fastest lap of the race, and he's... I thought he was just about to collect another car there, but that's actually Ethan's ghost.
He's ghosted, yeah.
I wonder, although I think in saying that, even though a car is ghosted, I'm still pretty sure you can actually use DRS on them, so I think maybe that was what Luke was trying to do, but I don't...
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah, clever move.
Although in saying that, that might be a bit out of context, because Luke, these two championship combatants, as I said, Albert only has to finish with 18 points this weekend if he wants to win the F4 championship. That'll change next weekend to 11 if he does stay, if positions stay as is. So time's running out for Luke to really mount an attack, and he'll be kind of hoping that Albert has a mistake and doesn't score points this weekend, but I'm sure Albert is in the back of his mind will say, if I want to win this championship, I'm not going to take too many risks, and if it means that I win the championship by 1 point, that's the way it goes. So
yeah, well, it's better than not winning it at all, so...
Well, exactly, and I mean, it's been kind of the contrast. These championships, a lot of the championships, F3 and F4, have been kind of contrasted by different people moving to different categories all the time. Some that were in championship contention in F4 originally that moved to F3, and vice versa, and all that kind of stuff. So the championship between these two categories have kind of chopped and changed a little bit over the course of time, as Diogo's ended up in the fence somewhere. I don't know where he will, because the next driver...
Yeah, I'll ride on board with Ethan's ghosting and see if we can up where that's that is. Oh, I wonder if he's gone wide on the entrance into the stadium section.
We'll just see.
On the right-hander.
We probably won't see the car now because it's probably a little too
let's
late.
See if there's any debris hanging around.
Once we see
there's
the position,
a few cars just about to go through there as well.
Once the position change, we'll get a rough understanding, and then we can probably deduce what happens. So he's coming through the stadium section now. Here we go. Okay, so it is a okay, that's...
Oh, there's actually a bit of debris on the inside, on the pit lane. Oh, right next to where final corner there, a huge tank slapper, and he's lost a place because of it. And there's actually a bit of debris just hanging in the pit lane, pretty much. So interesting. I don't know whether that's anything to do with it, but
well, judging from where Ethan's positional change was, it actually looks like it was in the inside part of the hairpin, or in the just as you come out of the hairpin of the stadium section. So I wonder if maybe he's gone wide or deep, or I mean, he was position 7, so you wouldn't really be in a state of mind to just throw the car into the wall and call it a day, because...
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, would you?
Well, I mean, in my time as hosting the championships, I've seen some pretty silly things, and people that have thrown away some pretty decent results because they just didn't, some people that throw away a result because they weren't winning and that kind of stuff. And I can understand that more than anyone, that as a racer you want to win races and you want to win them quite often, but if you're in a position where you're not even close to a win, you do get a bit frustrated. But it's you just got to hang in there. I mean, it was the same for me. One of the worst races in my life, and yes, the win wasn't effective because I wasn't the first driver on track to take the checkered flag, but because of the sorry, controller just died. Because of being the only driver left in the F1 after Matt Plevy got disqualified, I took advantage of everyone's misfortunes to win the race. So perseverance is key to winning races a lot of the time.
Yeah, exactly. There's countless examples that we've seen from people being able to nick something out of nothing, really. And I mean, I get that almost at all this year, which is pretty frustrating. But yeah, if by some chance you do get one, that brings you right back into it. So.
Well, I think your win in China last season kind of came to an account of that as well. You took advantage of a few issues here and there, and were able to gain ground and take your first win of the season. So
you can't even remember what happened in that. I can't really remember what.
I can only remember
What happened to everyone else?
pirouetting off at the Snell section on the first lap after with heavy worn
Oh
tyres.
yeah, I remember seeing that.
Wasn't the greatest race, although I did steal the fastest lap, which was a bit of a consolidation for that effect. But anyway, we've got a battle now between Bradley Betts and Philip De Catton. Brad's going to use the DRS to full effect and take the position. Brad will be a little disappointed that his qualifying kind of put him in a bad position in the race, and he's had to bounce his way back, so he'll still score some points out of it, but he will lose points to his brother, who's been who's up in P5 at the moment, probably just consolidating and whatnot. Luke's managed to pull in 2 seconds in the last couple of laps to be within 7 seconds of now something I just noticed here, and it seems a bit weird, I've just noticed that a lot of drivers, that when they go around the last turn, they actually tend to go really shallow. It's almost like they're trying to get the fastest lap by going as deep into the shallow into the corner as possible and right against the wall almost. At least I saw it on Luke's end.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times so far as well. It's interesting because it is a bit of a tricky corner because it just lasts for so long. You really want to get your foot down on the floor and just floor it out of there to build up some speed for the long straight, but you can't. You've got to be patient, or you just get a huge tank slapper, and it's so easy to end up in the wall. And just getting on the power too early as you come around there.
So what we're going to do, and I'll get you to do it for us, is we're going to ride on board with Alex DeMaio, who's just starting a lap now. I'll get you to run us through a virtual lap around the Mexican Grand Prix circuit and get people to understand what it's like to race around the circuit in anger.
Yeah, of course. So,
as we've just lost Bradley Betts actually. Which was turn 1.
Just catching. Maybe we'll do that next lap. I was just going to see where the I missed the first quarter anyway, so let's see where Brad's actually crashed out here.
It looks like it looks like he just went straight. I think he's just gone straight on at turn 1.
Oh right, I was saying it's must have deliberate. It's going to be a while till we.
Well, let's change our prospect. Let's go to.
There for a while. Oh, that's true. I'm going to drop down to. Here we go.
Let's go to Aiden Rifai and go do a lap with him.
Okay, perfect. We can go with Aiden. Oh, it's a hell of a long straight here. This goes on forever.
Gives you a bit of time to think about your first. Gives you a lot of time to think about what your next move is.
Yeah, you can really overthink this braking point. You want to go late and hard on the brakes. Nice wide line there. You want to take it nice and wide. Back really wants to kick out on there, so ideally you don't want to have too much power, too much throttle. Again, through there, you want to try and keep it as flowing as possible. You don't want to attack the curves too much.
Oh,
he's just put it in the wall. Was that deliberate? That was weird.
That was certainly deliberate. I don't think.
This went off to the right.
That
was okay. Just so happened that was when we were riding on board. And interesting. So Alex has just cleared him. I'll pick up with Alex anyway.
Yeah.
So again, same here as it was for the first chicane. Really, it did a good job not to take too much curve there because they've got these little lips on the inside of the curve, and they really chuck the car around if you hit them too hard. So again, coming around that little hairpin at the top there is quite tricky. You want to try and get on that power early again, but if you do too early, you just run it wide on the exit. Again, as I said here, it's so hard to hit all the apexes. If you mess up the first one, you cost yourself either a lot of time or you're just going to miss them and run it wide. A little bit early on the brakes there for my liking. You can really chuck the car into the castle section here. You can really fling it around that right-hander and keep it going pretty fast. You can use a bit of the runoff as well. Again, here's the really long right-hander coming around onto the straight, so you've got to be slightly careful as to how much power you're putting on early on. But yeah, so again, first sector predominantly taken up by this straight. Really, it's nothing too complex. It's just the last sector where it starts getting tight and twisty and a bit more technical. But again, yeah, it does a nice job taking these curves. Actually, that's a really nice run through the first sector there. Actually.
Okay, just interestingly, I just saw I just noticed that actually, according to Aiden Refair, his screen froze.
Oh, interesting. So it was almost like a game crash rather than a just a disconnection.
I mean,
we're going to see Cam going for the move up into P2.
Oh yeah, so Albert has come in actually,
nice
so that's interesting. So
yeah,
actually,
so
Albert and
just
Luke
emerged just behind them. Oh yeah, Luke as well. So both of them on the ultra soft tyres now, so they're going to be in a dash to the finish here for 14 laps really.
Luke's going to have the knowledge of having no one behind in front of him to worry about as he catches up to Albert. Albert, on the other hand, has 3 cars in order to negotiate around if he wants to try and get this position. I think Brad can go to the end on these super soft tyres. I think Matt, on the other hand, probably is not so much. I mean, I don't know what the duration of the ultra is. Oh, and Albert's gone. Oh, I thought Albert was going to go flying into the fence. He's throwing his car around like...
Albert's going to the outside.
He won't get this done here unless he can stick on it.
Not quite. Oh, he's going to keep it in there. Yeah, late on the brakes.
Matt tries to keep it. Oh, but...
Yeah, side by side through this house. Yeah, wasn't going to happen there through the stadium section. It's so hard to run side by side through there.
As Matt decides
and into the bits. Yeah.
So there's a 3-second gap
Matt
between...
Time for a pit stop. So there we go. So that's cost Albert a bit of time there. So Luke's gained in about 2 seconds on that lap.
And of course, so at the moment we're subject to believe that Cameron is going to stay out. We also know that we think Joseph will be coming in, because if his teammates come in on 1 lap fresher tyres, then it would be a no-brainer to see Joseph come out, unless this is their strategy change, that they're going to try and push Joseph to do the one less stop. Although I think the hype, if we looked at the numbers of the 3 tyres, we've seen we've seen as high as 9 laps on the hypers, 11 laps on the ultras. So far, 16 on the supers. That sounds about right. I've always reckoned that you should have been able to bring any compound of tyre to any race weekend. So instead of having a certain compound, you have every single compound available to you, but you're only allowed to pick 2.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. It'd make for some interesting races, and you'd probably end up. It'd be quite interesting because you'd probably get some of the teams down the back choose obviously some really hard compounds. You might have seen the hards once or twice from Williams, who were just trying to desperately.
And how you might have even seen the super hards come to light in one of these races.
Yeah, you never know. It would have made just for an extra little aspect, and here we go. So Albert very late on the brakes. Cam goes for the switchback, a bit of wheel banging, but nothing too much. But Cam does have to concede the position in the end. But Albert was mighty late on the brakes, but I suppose that's what fresh ultras are going to be able to do for you, really.
And Luke, and what time Luke made up is probably going to now start to dissipate, because now that Albert's in clean here, he'll just start to throw the car around. I'm actually a bit off on the penalty system. I haven't been keeping up on that one, but
yeah, I'll have a bit of a look. I haven't seen many pop up actually. I've seen a few at the beginning, but let's have a look. I'll look if any of the leaders have any penalties. So Josh has 3 seconds by the looks of it, but the others also. Cam does have 3 seconds as well. Oh, it might actually be 6. Yeah, 6 seconds. Oh, 9. Oh no, sorry, I'm getting the 2 bets confused then. So Josh has a few. That's 6, I think. Then. Yeah, so Cam is on 9 seconds at the moment and bordering on a 12-second. So Luke has none at the moment so far, but I believe Luke does have 2 warnings, so he is living dangerously. But Cam, biggest most penalised, we'll put it that way so far. Biggest corner cutter.
So if positions stay as they are, we could see Luke actually take 3 straight wins this season.
Yeah, although Albert, I don't believe, had a penalty either, so the top 2 are fighting for position as it stands. I believe.
I might get you to double check. I'll get you to double check that one, because I do recall seeing Albert get a penalty, and Luke again with that really shallow inside line.
I'll have a look.
I know it is cover off the cover off the DRSs. Cam does have the DRS.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did. Middle of the race. Gustav does have 3, but yeah, Luke. Oh wait, Luke got 1 there and 1 there. I thought we had 2 next to each other. Yeah, no, Luke is just on 2 warnings. So Luke. No, I lied. There we are. Oh, that's. Yeah, no, he does. He's got 3. They both got 3 seconds. They are 5. Yeah, 3 seconds and 2 penalties. So yeah, maybe that's what I did in my mind. So yeah, they both got a 3-second penalty, but Luke is also on 2 warnings. So Luke's got to be a little bit careful.
Yeah, well, I think at the rate
they are fighting for position at the moment.
Yeah, I think the rate Albert's going at too. I wouldn't be too surprised if he ends up getting another one as well, because he's just throwing the cut on as Brad.
Yeah, and there we go. Cam does get another one. So Cam's actually got to watch out for that, although actually Josh does have a few as well, so Cam might have to watch out for that that 3rd place there.
I think, because you look at the differences in driving between Albert and Luke, and as Brad decides to call it a day on that one, you look at the differences in the driving pattern between Albert and Luke. Albert is a far more aggressive approach. Albert just throws the car in and looks like he's got the ability to be able to carry the car's momentum through the corner without compromising too much ground, but it does at the same time increase the risk of putting your car into a penalty status, because you just, oh, Luke's super wide and there's the 2nd penalty.
Yeah, Luke's really pushing. You can see he really wants to get into that that 1 second area. I think
he was a little wide, just a fraction
wide. Yeah, it was
wide.
interesting they gave him a penalty for that. I'm not sure he would have gained much of an advantage from that.
Well, that's the problem though. The game doesn't seem to really recognise the difference.
Yeah, it doesn't recognise that, does it?
You could. I mean, how many times have you gone like? I think Canada was an example of it. I remember getting hit off the track at turn 1, and even though I pretty much stopped on the circuit, stopped in the centre of the circuit, then drove back onto the track, it still gave me a 10-second time penalty for excessive corner cutting. So the game doesn't seem to really either doesn't recognise the fact that you've gone off by contact, or you've made a mistake and you haven't gained any ground, or it just penalises you on the account that you're just, despite the fact that whether you're making ground or not, you're still exceeding track limits.
Yeah, I think it just has its limits, and if you go over a certain speed, I think through those and over those limits, I think it penalises you, because I have found if you do cut corner but you massively back off, it will not give you a penalty. But it does have to be quite a drastic reduction in pace. So I have found actually Monza turn 1, if you straight line that, you don't actually have to slow down all that much.
Well, we did actually have to remove a penalty from David Edwards, because he went off at turn 1, did the false chicane, drove out and still got a 3-second time penalty for it. So it does. I think, I don't know whether it is a speed thing or it's just some people are just getting luckier than others.
Interesting, because the times that I've done that and gone through the chicanes, it hasn't penalised me, but maybe I just did it slow enough for.
Yeah, I think it's just unlucky for some who managed to do it, think they're doing it right and might not be, but it looks like we could. Well, actually, goes. Luke looked a lot closer than what the timing monitor actually suggested going through the stadium.
It had him at 0.9 last lap, but he's obviously just fallen out of it through the duration of this lap. And both of them running pretty similar ERS levels as well. Interesting to see Luke he's actually conserving a little bit more. Thought he might have been running a overtake just to try and get into that 1 second gap, but obviously trying to leave something in reserve so that if he does catch him, he wants to be able to get past.
Well, there's only 6 laps to go.
That's going to be the next challenge.
Yeah. So 6 laps, 3 seconds, unless Albert can get another penalty in the next 6 laps, which we can
I was just going to check if he's actually on any warnings now or not.
I know, actually,
So
I kind of retract my statement about Albert's driving style when it comes to it. It only seems to look like when he's fighting people that he seems to get overly aggressive and throws the car around. Because right now he's looking quite consistent and smooth, although I've just noticed that the track conditions have started to deteriorate a little bit.
So,
but
yeah, Albert's only on one warning at the moment, so
I don't think there'll be any rain expected at the end of the race, but it does certainly look like it could have been had this been 100%
so this time
race.
Luke is definitely on DRS. Oh, 6/10 back, DRS.
And
It's a long straight, so he might get close enough towards the end of it to lunge it.
And
he might
Albert
just have to.
cover.
Yeah, Albert's going to go defensive. Or very late on the brakes from Luke, really late, and he's ran the tyre off the track there, but pulled it back. So
it actually doesn't. It didn't actually. Yeah, it didn't actually hurt him too much though.
No, not at all. I think, just tuck it in, and you know you're going to be able to get close.
I think he's. I couldn't see it too well because I was on board with the back of his car, but he's actually managed to size it up. There's a bit of.
I think that was quite nice. I think it was I think he dummied it to the right, and I don't think Albert saw it coming, and Luke just went up the inside. The gap was there.
There was a bit of an overlap too.
Nicely.
Just a little tiny bit of overlap as Albert decided to try and go back up the inside and thought that he was going wide, so there was a bit of overlap contact, but he's pulled it off. So now Luke will want to try and get out of DRS range.
Yeah, so this is the thing. Albert now going to be the one with DRS, and judging by how close he is, there's a strong chance he's going to be able to come straight back at him down into turn 1. So we'll see how much ERS they've been able to save, and yeah, this time I see Luke does switch up into overtake to try and defend against this, but with DRS he can't do that much defending against it. It really and
he's got to be careful that he doesn't weave too much either. He's starting to do it now.
He's gone back to the racing line, so I think that's all right. He made the movement off and then rejoined the racing line before the corner. So
yeah, you're allowed to make one move and then return to your racing line, and that's been the common rule of racing. I don't think Albert's close enough to really mount an attack here up into the.
He might try and do what Luke did to him back to him. He's not going to. He's a little bit too far back at the moment. So, but he's going to stick with him. And if you can, I said it's hard to follow through this last sector, but if you can follow quite closely, he sets you up so nicely with the long straight with the DRS. That's the real key.
One thing I'd like to see more than anything else is just a last-minute dump of rain, just to.
Oh, Luke got a little bit sideways, and that has allowed Albert right up behind him here. So Luke's going to have to go defensive, and now Albert is going to be right on his tail coming around onto the home straight. So Luke just had a moment through the S's.
And that's the problem when you make overtakes like that. You've got to be sure that you've got to be able to make this move and make it stick. But since now, and Albert's a lot closer than he was last lap, so he's
definitely in range. And Luke is definitely weaving.
Luke, you got to stop weaving, mate.
He's got to be careful. Rejoin the racing
Albert
line.
down the inside.
Maybe one weave too many in there for my liking. I don't have a massive issue if it's a gradual move to one side or the other, but it's a little bit sudden. But no harm done in the end. Albert through.
So Albert will make a defensive move. Luke's going to try and go. I mean, these are the two championship combatants. So as far as it goes, this is the kind of battle we want to see between the two championship contenders.
Oh, Luke's got much better drive out of the exit of the hairpin there.
And he's running out of laps too, so he needs to kind of hope that if he can make a move.
Yeah, well, the problem is, of course, he does. I believe. Oh wait, does he? Did he pick up? He didn't. He hasn't picked up that second penalty yet, has he?
No, he has got the second penalty, and that's why he's.
He did get. I thought he did. Yeah. I was going to say. I seem to be. That did take some attention out of it, really. Although I believe. Oh, let me just check that. But I believe Albert might be on 2 warnings. He is. He's on 2 warnings now, so Albert can't afford to cut another corner.
No.
Or it will be a straight fight for position right now.
And as we watch now, Luke is going to go. See, Albert's not as aggressive this time around, but Luke's going to go around the outside. Will he try and go deep on the brakes again, or he actually manages to pull it off this time? So
yeah, nice.
And this time he'll have the DRS again, so he should be able. essentially, I find that if you feel like you've only just made the overtake through DRS, having one detection point's good for you because you know you can use the DRS to defend
Yeah,
yourself because you
yeah,
know
you know
that
you'll be able to protect.
yeah, because you know that the person's going to come back at you, and if the detection point was like at the start of the first turn, and you made the overtake, you'd be in
Well,
quite a bit of trouble.
yeah, the rate that this is going at, it looks like whoever's going to be in second place heading onto the last lap is actually going to be the one with the advantage because neither of them can drop each other
No,
with DRS, so you
there
can get the
was.
move done. So actually, I think it might play into who's going to be. I think it'll be Albert who will be behind.
Well, I think we will see that in just a second
Going
because
to.
the last
Oh,
turn
wait,
now,
I'm trying to figure this out.
Albert
But
lost a
either
bit of
way,
ground
yeah.
in the last turn there, so he's
Yeah, a
dropped.
little bit of a bad exit there, so
And again, Luke with the weaving,
quite a long way back.
it's slight weaving in this case. It's not as dangerous, but if he keeps, well, he's now gone back to the racing line. He does have to be like little tiny weaves, which don't really do anything more than just keeping the tyres warm. That much is tolerable, but when you start doing moves like this, if he and then again he moves across again. This time Albert decides he's
Oh,
going to
Albert
try and
looking.
flip the
That's him.
nose in.
Yeah, I don't think there was much wrong from Luke there. He went to the inside and then. Oh, there's a bit of rain. There's definitely starting to rain. Definitely some rain. Yeah,
Let's have a look on board. Yes, there is.
definitely
So
some very
that
light
last
rain.
minute dump of rain's not entirely off the
Yeah.
cards, but oh,
Oh,
Luke's made
Luke's
a
had a
huge.
really bad run. The same place he had a bad run last time he was in front as well.
Oh, look at that rain! It's actually coming down quite heavily.
Yeah, I reckon that is
Part of
going to finish just in time. Give it another few laps, and we might have had to see
oh,
some pits
we needed
some
this
wet
rain a
tyres.
few laps earlier.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
look at
would have
that!
been
Yeah, they're
really
struggling. They're
entertaining.
actually starting to struggle now. There's actually no
Oh,
grip in
now
these.
I think this would play into Luke's hands here, being the one in front. You don't want to. He's trying to stick a dive bomb up in wet conditions. So here
Well,
we go,
technically
last lap.
speaking, you're actually thinking about it wrong. For Luke, it's actually a disadvantage because he's the pioneer. He's the first driver to tackle the
Yeah.
thing, so
Although
he'll be grip on this.
I think I'd still take. I'd rather be in this position because I don't want to be trying to stick a car up the inside uh, of a long straight like that at turn one in wet conditions. Trying to be later breaker. At least you don't have to play it too risky if you're.
Oh, here we go. Albert's got the
lovely line from Albert.
Albert's got the over and under, but he doesn't have the.
Luke just got the better traction.
Of course, this.
And
Although this is brought. Where did Brad come from? Where did Cam come from?
I think as these two have been fighting, he's just worked his way up. But with the amount of penalties he's got,
Yeah,
it's not.
that's incredible. I just noticed a false India in the. Oh, Albert's made a critical mistake.
Oh, yeah, they both ran a bit wide. But yeah, last I saw, Cam was about 4 seconds back, so he's really reeled in the last few laps there. Perhaps those ultras just starting to struggle, but then again, those supers 22 laps old.
He's managed to pull off the one stop,
They might
so
be as well. So I think Albert is going to win this.
yeah, I think so. Luke will cross
penalties.
the line, and it's going to be a three-way. It's going to be a three-way stoush as Luke puts it into the fence. But yeah, Albert does take the race win from Luke, and then Cam. We'll see if Cam holds on to third.
I think he will because I believe that Josh has a few penalties as well.
And yep, so Cameron holds on to the final step of the podium. And look at that, on the end of the final lap, the DRS gets disabled. So one more lap and we would have been in for a treat. So we'll grab our 3 podium. Actually would have. So what we'll do now is we'll grab our top 3. You and where is? It's much easier when they're actually bloody appearing online, but oh well, I'll overlook it in that regard. Alright, so we've got Albert here, who is our race winner for today's Grand Prix. Albert, we'll come back to you actually, because we've got Cameron here, who's managed to hold on to the podium. Cam, welcome back to the Translation Formula One. First in on the podium almost straight away. The wet weather looked like it kind of played into your hands a little bit, as well as the battles. Unfortunately, the penalties didn't really help you in that regard, but still a podium on your return's not too bad.
Yeah, I'm happy with the P3. I wanted that P2, but I couldn't quite catch up to it, and my tyres are pretty warm, so I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
And how does it feel just to be able to come back? I mean, it looked like your strategy was a little compromised by your qualifying position, but overall it looked like you fit to...
I think we've got some technical difficulties here. I'm kind of breaking up a little bit. I've got you now, but it's kind of breaking up a little bit.
Okay, well maybe we'll Albert, we'll go to you just quickly. Congratulations on another race win. That's bringing you one step closer to your F4 title. Just talk us through the race and those last 9 laps.
Well, I had some mistakes with the ultra soft laps at the quali, and I decided to go hyper and then just well, it was a quite interesting battle at the end with the rain and these things, and I enjoyed so much. And well, let's see if I can win the F4 title in Brazil or in Abu Dhabi, but I had a nightmare this night, so yeah.
Congratulations on your race win, and we'll see you at Brazil for the penultimate round. Guy, any last thoughts before we close up?
Nah, not at all.
Well, what can I say? It was a very interesting conclusion to the Mexican Grand Prix F4 category. Albert Ramirez Garcia taking victory from Luke Ringham, and Cameron Betts taking the final step of the podium. So that's it we've got for F4. Tune in about 50 minutes time for F3, where I'll take commentary with Mark Bratby. And hopefully we'll see a continuation of the big battle between Tyler Beasley, Robin Kreft and Sterling West. Of course, Matthew Elliott looking to try and salvage P2 in the championship from Evgeny Delacruz. Also, don't forget to tune in to tomorrow for the F1 and the F2, same time as usual, and of course the Transnation Supercar Championship, 4 o'clock this afternoon for round 5 at Brazil, no less. So, without further ado, Brett Keenan, Guy Tusker signing out from Mexico, and we'll see you next weekend at Brazil for F4.